There's something undeniably strange about the way Family Guy operates. On the surface, it's just a loud, outrageous, animated sitcom filled with ridiculous jokes, talking dogs, and a baby who wants to take over the world. But underneath the chaos, beneath the layers of humor and the rapid-fire gags, there are tiny details, blink and you'll miss them, moments that almost feel like they weren't meant to be noticed. Moments that slip by unnoticed during your first watch, but once you catch them, they stay with you forever. These aren't the spotlight jokes, or the iconic scenes everyone quotes online. These are the hidden beats, the quiet, emotional punches, the strange truths buried under absurdity, and the moments that feel more real than the show ever intended. Sometimes it's the way a character looks for just a second too long, a small flicker in their expression that says more than the entire joke surrounding it. Like when Meg, who is constantly the target of every insult in the Griffin universe, gives this tiny half-smile after Peter makes fun of her, almost as if she's learned to fake strength so well that even the audience forgets she's hurting. That split-second expression gets lost in the laughter, lost in the noise, but if you pause at the right time, it's there. A small reminder that Family Guy occasionally teeters on the edge of something deeper, even if it pretends not to. Or maybe it's Brian, often sarcastic, often too intelligent for his own good, sitting with a drink in his hand, staring at nothing. The joke usually plays it off as him being pretentious or dramatic. But if you look at the animation and the timing, there's genuine loneliness baked into his character. The show hides it with punchlines and cutaways, but the loneliness is there. The desire to be understood, the need for someone to take him seriously. It's almost heartbreaking how often he's ignored or dismissed, especially by the people he tries hardest to impress. And it's strange, because we're talking about a cartoon dog, but that's the magic of these subtle, unexpected moments. They hit harder because they aren't trying to. Then there's Stewie, the character who might be the most chaotic, yet the most emotionally layered. He's evil, he's manipulative, and he's completely unfiltered, but every now and then, he slips. His mask cracks. He shows a piece of himself that feels painfully human. There are moments where he wants love, where he wants validation, where he wants to know he matters. It's quick, sometimes just a line, sometimes just a look, but it comes and goes so fast, you almost wonder if it was meant to be there at all. Almost like the writers accidentally let his truth escape for a moment, before covering it up with a joke about world domination or a snarky one. And maybe that's why those moments matter so much. Because Stewie isn't supposed to have vulnerabilities, yet sometimes he does. And those brief flickers of authenticity make him feel more real than many characters in live-action shows. But hidden emotions aren't the only thing Family Guy slips into the cracks. There are tiny references, background animations, and comedic micro-moments that seem like they re there solely for the people who pay too much attention. There's the way Quahog itself changes shape depending on the episode. Almost like the town is alive, morphing with the chaos of its residents. There are background characters who repeat their actions across multiple seasons, as if living their own quiet lives while the Griffins spiral through comedy and disaster. And sometimes, when the animators feel playful, a character in the background is doing something bizarre that the show never points out. It's almost exhilarating when you catch one. Like being in on a secret the episode never acknowledges. One of the most striking unnoticed moments is the way Peter interacts with his family without realizing the emotional weight of his actions. Peter Griffin is loud, impulsive, childish, and most of the time, completely unaware of the consequences of his behavior. But hidden in his chaos, there's something unexpectedly sad. Every now and then, right after he says something hurtful, even if it's meant to be funny, he pauses. Just for a beat. A strange, quiet beat that almost feels like guilt. The show immediately distracts you with another joke so you don't linger on it. But that pause stays in your mind. It's a reminder that underneath his Peter is a person who sometimes understands he's hurting the people he loves, even if he doesn't know how to stop. Lois has her own moments of vulnerability that slip past casual viewers. She plays the role of the calm center, the voice of reason in a home full of chaos. But sometimes she breaks. Sometimes she gets tired. You can hear it in her voice when she sighs after dealing with yet another disaster, or the way her shoulders drop when she has given up on trying to explain something for the 10th time. It's subtle, but it's emotional in a way the show rarely acknowledges directly. The humor demands she stay composed, but the animation occasionally betrays her exhaustion. It's a moment of truth, hidden under layers of comedy. Chris, often portrayed as simple-minded or oblivious, also has these surprising flashes of clarity moments where he understands the situation better than anyone in the room. They're always played for laughs. Like, look how unexpectedly smart Chris was. But if you watch closely, it's more than a joke. It's a small recognition that he's not as clueless as he seems. Maybe he's just overlooked. Maybe he processes things differently. Maybe the world doesn't give him enough credit. Those tiny sparks of insight make you see him differently, even if the show goes right back to using him as the goofy son seconds later. And then there's the dynamic between Stewie and Brian, one of the most emotionally complex relationships in the series. Their friendship has layers, contradictions, and moments of raw honesty that seem almost too serious for a show built on absurdity. Sometimes they argue like old friends. Sometimes they comfort each other. And sometimes they reveal truth by accident. When Stewie says he's scared of being alone, or when Brian admits he wishes things in his life had turned out differently, these moments slip by quietly, often overshadowed by a joke meant to diffuse the tension. But if you're paying attention, those lines land hard. They stick. They echo, because behind the sarcasm and the banter, there's a real connection between them, and you can feel it even when they pretend not to. Another unnoticed moment comes from the way the show occasionally breaks its own rules. Every so often, the characters become oddly self-aware. A quick glance into the camera, a comment that feels like it wasn't meant for the other characters, but for the audience. A joke that acknowledges the absurdity of a plotline without fully explaining it. These tiny meta-hints give the show a strange, almost eerie intelligence, like the characters are aware they exist inside a world that resets every week, even if they can't fully articulate it. And when they look directly at us for just a second, it's weirdly intimate. You feel seen, like you're sharing a private joke with a fictional universe. Family Guy also hides emotion in the smallest, quietest scenes. A moment where the family sits together and nobody is arguing. A scene where they genuinely laugh with each other instead of at each other. A hug that's played off as humorous, but lingers long enough to feel sincere. It's in these soft, understated beats that the show reveals a truth it rarely says out loud, for all their flaws. This family cares about each other. Deeply, messily, imperfectly, but they care. And those moments of warmth hit even harder because they're surrounded by so much chaos. Sometimes, the unnoticed moments aren't emotional, they're symbolic. Take the baby toys scattered around the living room that Stewie never uses because he's too busy acting like an adult. Or the empty bottles on the dining table, hinting at Brian's drinking problem long before the show addresses it openly. Or the fact that Meg keeps her distance from the rest of the family even when they're standing close together. These details aren't pointed out. They're just there. Quiet truths woven into the background of a loud world. There are also episodes where the humor suddenly stops, and the show lets silence speak. Maybe it's after a harsh joke. Maybe it's after a moment of unexpected honesty. That silence isn't accidental. It's a breath. A pause that lets the weight of the moment sink in. And because Family Guy almost never uses silence, those seconds feel incredibly powerful. Almost unsettling. Like the show allowed reality to slip through for just a moment. And then there are the small, funny moments the creators clearly tucked in for the people who watch with sharp eyes. A background character reacting in a way that contradicts the main joke. A sign with a hidden message. A tiny animation mistake that becomes unintentionally hilarious. A character who reappears seasons later in the same outfit, doing the same thing, as if time never touched them. These details create a strange richness in the world of Family Guy, making the city of Quahog feel alive in a way that's easy to overlook. When you begin to notice these tiny, hidden pieces, the emotional cracks, the symbolic details, the unspoken truths, the background surprises you, start to realize that Family Guy, isn't just a cartoon built on chaotic humor. It's a show that hides depth behind absurdity, a show that occasionally stumbles into moments of honesty without meaning to. a show that lets its characters be ridiculous but also painfully real, sometimes in ways the writers probably never intended. And it's those unexpected, unnoticed moments that stay with you, because they reveal something raw, something human, something quietly profound beneath the layers of comedy. They remind you that even in a world as bizarre and unpredictable as Family Guy, there are flashes of truth, little emotional sparks waiting to be seen by anyone who pays close enough attention.